The ego of the Negro is one of the greatest barriers of our people. A lot of our leaders been killed because of ego in the black community because racism affects all of us. So thinking that you're going to live a life where racism is not going to impact you is ridiculous. You have a greater likelihood of being struck by lightning than you do thinking that you're going to live the American dream and not have racism take a bite out of you. As the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey taught, identity is critical for us. If you are not African, I can relate to you. You're still my brother and sister. You're psychologically confused, obviously, but I can't struggle with you because you don't even see yourself as a part of my family. So that's why identity is central. It is critical to the Pan-Africanist. If you're not an African, if you don't identify with us, then you are a potential security risk, and we cannot take that chance. And as far as the young people go, Taylor, it's about political education. Thomas Sankara, one of the greatest Pan-Africanists of all time, especially when it comes to women's equality. Thomas Sankara, he said of Burkina Faso, a soldier without a political education, a soldier without a political education is a traitor waiting to happen. We must give our young people a political education. And when I say focus on under 30, Taylor, I'm not saying forget about those who are over 30, as am I. I'm simply saying that for those over 30, I'm looking for people who are ready to work. I'm not too interested in rehabilitating people over the age of 30. And that probably comes from my psychological bias because I understand that the human personality is largely set at 5, not likely to change after 15, and you're pretty much going to die being the person you are at 30. So we can find those who are ready. But I am not going to spend a lot of time rehabilitating people over 30 because as a therapist, I know how hard it is for people to give up drinking, smoking. I know how hard it is for people to give up anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, self-hatred. So I understand that the human condition is a very difficult thing to change. The personality does not lend itself easily to modification. And that's why we're selling ourselves a pipe dream if we think we're going to change the way people over 30 think, feel, and act. Let's focus on under 30. Now, great question, Sister Taylor. First of all, the reason Black organizations can't unite is the same reason why Black churches can't unite. And it's because people want to be in charge. And being in control is more important than being free. Everybody wants to lead. No organization is humble enough to respect another organization's lead or equality. There's certain organizations in the Black community who never collaborate with other people. If they get into an initiative, they're going to dominate it and they're going to take it over, which is why you never see them work with other groups because other groups can't tolerate the fact that they don't see themselves as equal. They see themselves as better. That is a problem in the Black consciousness movement, not to mention the ideological chauvinism and the ideological tribalism that exists. Not to toot the horn of the Pan-Africanists, but we are the one camp under the Black consciousness umbrella whose priority is unity. So we will unite with anyone, the God and Earth, the Nation of Islam, the Nawapians. It doesn't matter to us because we understand that we're only going to get out of this through unity. But outside of the Pan-Africanists, everyone else is religion first and ideology first. So you have to recognize, number one, just like the Black church, people start these organizations to be in charge of something. They have a need for power. So when you say solidarity, they're saying I can't practice solidarity with other Black groups in Boston because solidarity undermines my power. Solidarity undermines my dictatorial control. Solidarity undermines my ability to control something. Let me say this: the ego of the Negro is one of the greatest barriers for our people. The ego of the Negro is one of the greatest barriers of our people. A lot of our leaders been killed because of ego. I mean, think about it. Malcolm X was killed because of ego. Thomas Sankara was killed because of ego. Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown for ego. Dr. King partly was assassinated for ego. So you have to look at the role of ego in Black leadership, and you will clearly see a glaring historical contradiction that when it comes between what's best for the people and what's best for me, when the choice has to be made, what is best for the people And what is best for me? Time and time again, whether it's Africa or America, you will see that the average Negro leader, no matter how conscious he claims to be, he will choose his ego over the people 99 times out of 100. You know, the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, leader of the largest organization ever, up until this time, no one has been able to eclipse what he did. But the people were ready, Sister Taylor. When the Honorable Marcus Garvey showed up in New York City, March 23rd, 1916, a lot of black men were coming back from World War One. They were returning from World War One and they were being lynched in their uniforms. When Garvey showed up in 1916 and 1919, you had the red hot summer. So you have to have a situation where the leader and the people are both ready at the same time. You had that with Garvey. That helps explain Garvey's success, not to mention that the groundwork had already been laid for Mr. Garvey by Bishop Henry McNeil Turner, who died a year, okay, before Garvey showed up, and Booker T. Washington, who died a year before Garvey showed up. The same thing with Dr. King. You have to recognize that the leader and the people were simultaneously ready at the same time. If the leader is ready and the people are not, it can't happen. If the people are ready and the leadership is disingenuous, it can't happen. You have to have both. And in the 60s, the reason why we were so serious and ready, because it was obvious. It was obvious what was going on. Times have changed, and media has done an effective job manipulating Black consciousness in America to make us think things are not as bad as they are. You didn't have this type of media control you have now that you had back in the 60s. And the other point that cannot be understated, Sister Taylor, is how the government stratified the Black reality in America. What do I mean by the stratification of oppression? The stratification, what I mean by that, Sister Taylor, is before the 60s, whether you was a doctor, a lawyer, a surgeon, an accountant, you still lived in the ghetto with the unemployed mother on public assistance because you could not move out with the white people. You could not live there. You understand? So there was no stratification, Taylor. There was no stratification. You shopped at the same stores. You went to the same hospitals. You may have had a PhD from Harvard, as did Dr. Du Bois when he worked in Philadelphia. But W.E.B. Du Bois, although employed by an elite Ivy League university in the University of Pennsylvania, had to live in the ghetto in South Philadelphia. That would change after Dr. King's murder. The government deliberately stratified oppression. And the problem we have now, Sister Taylor, is Sister Taylor, hypothetically speaking, Sister Taylor has a big, beautiful house in a white suburb of Boston. Dr. Umar got 6 degrees, including one in clinical psychology. The next brother is a hip hop artist worth $1 billion, and he lives in a gated community. In other words, Sister Taylor, it's hard for us to get on the same square because we now have degrees of commitment. There were no degrees of commitment in the 60s and 50s. Everybody had the same thing to lose because we were in the same box. But now you have Black millionaires, you have Black multi-millionaires, you have Black people with privileges that they get from the white power structure that they are not willing to part with. And it is the stratification of oppression that makes it so difficult for those who are serious to actually unite, Sister Taylor, because you're willing to lose more than me, or I'm willing to lose more than you. But the next brother is not willing to go to jail. The next sister is not willing to lose her job. The next brother is not willing to lose his life because the white man has given him a set of privileges that, as far as he's concerned, is greater than anything else in the world, including freedom. You can't make it alone. That's the matrix, Taylor. That's the illusion that we can make it alone. And that's why so many African people are rolling the dice. Most of us are rolling the dice, Sister Taylor. And you know what we're rolling the dice? I'm going to roll these dice that I'm going to be able to live my life the way I want to live it. And the police ain't going to kill my kids. White folks ain't going to shoot out my tires. I'm not going to get kicked out of my job for being Black. I'm not going to lose my pension on this government job. I know America is racist, but I don't care about fighting for all Black people. I don't love my race. I'm not interested in anything that got to do with putting Black people first. I only care about me and my kids. So I'm going to roll these dice, and I know it's a long shot. I know it's a 1 in 1 million chance that these dice are going to roll in such a way that guarantees me a life that is free of racism, having a significant impact impact on the outcome of me and my family, but I'm going to roll it anyway. And you know what happens when you roll that dice? You'll get Michael Brown. You'll get Sandra Bland. You'll get Tamir Rice. You'll get Eric Garner. Not them per se, you understand? But you'll get tragedies and casualties in the Black community because racism affects all of us. So thinking that you're going to live a life where racism is not going to impact you is ridiculous. You have a greater likelihood of being struck by lightning than you do thinking that you're going to live the American dream and not have racism take a bite out of you. Look what racism did to Bill Cosby. Racism took Prince's life. Racism took Michael Jackson's life. Racism took Whitney Houston's life. And these were the most privileged of Black folk. So it bothers me that with all we see going on in America, with all this racism, Black people are still willing to bet that racism will not affect them and their kids. It's the most ridiculous, preposterous gamble that you can ever make. I would have more confidence if you took your whole bank account and went to the casino and gambled it on a hand of poker than thinking you're going to live a life and not think racism is going to sooner or later rear its ugly head in your reality.
I feel like I'm on top of the world. But what we fail to realize as Black athletes and entertainers, one day you will no longer be relevant. And the minute you're not, you end up like Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson made more money for the white man than any entertainer in history, and they still took his life. Prince wasn't far behind. They still took his life. Whitney Houston, highest selling female artist until she got on the drugs and Mariah took over. But How I Will Always Love You rendition, that's still the highest selling female song in history. And she's the only Black artist ever to be certified diamond 3 times in a row. Not even Michael Jackson was certified diamond 3 times in a row, and they still killed Whitney. At the end of the day, you're nothing but a commodity. When you're no longer useful to you, they don't give a damn about you.